Alternative and better ways to edit your tracks next on Music Surgery with me, Dr. Bob. Hey, before we get started, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of future videos. Also, there are tons of great samples from my personal library below in the description of every video. They're all pay what you want. And lastly, if you want me to work on your music, hit me at drbobmusicsurgery@gmail.com. So, with music trends changing all the time, it's up to us to be aware of that as music creators. I love all kinds of music and all kinds of approaches to music, and this technique actually involves your heart and your ears. Imagine that. Watch this. All right, you guys, some important stuff this week. A shorter video, but really amazing technique. I just got back from Ireland. I'm a little bit jet lagged. Had a great master class over there. Thank you to Dean Rossiter and everyone over there who was so fabulous. Wonderful people, wonderful country. And this is something we discussed in the class. I always follow my heroes online. Mutt, anything Jeff Porcaro did, the Beatles, Jeff Lynne, and another one, a guy who I really admire is Eric Valentine. And I've noticed that with a lot of my heroes, they tend to dodge and weave with the trends of music like we all should. And I've noticed that Eric has really changed the way he looks at quantization and music and tracks and feel over the years, like we all have. I love super quantized tight tracks. I love that. I still do, even though I'm a drummer. But I heard Steve Gadd one time say, Steve Gadd's one of the greatest drummers that ever lived. Grooving groove time is art. Perfect time is science. So, depending on the kind of song we're working on and what the artist wants and what we feel is appropriate for the song, we can do anything in between. But let me show you, instead of completely locking up all your tracks to the grid, even though that's great for some kind of music, it absolutely kills. So let me show you one method that I think is much better when it's appropriate for the kind of music that you're working on. This is one huge thing. Huge. So right here, you can see my bar lines and you can see my grid lines in between. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 1E and a 2E and sorry, those are 16th note grid markers. So the one thing I do when I'm editing a song like this is I go to like frames per second or samples, and those grid markers disappear. So I can't really look at those and edit to those. It immediately takes that out of my toolbox, which is really important. So what I need to do is I need to edit or listen with my ear. Imagine that. So let me take you to an example here of a few bars, and let me show you the best way to do this, at least the best way I think. Here we go. Okay, a lot of feel, and some parts it feels a little funny. So the first thing I want to do is let me just listen to, there's got to be one thing in the track that's the backbone, and I always make sure that the drums are even enough throughout the track that they feel good. The kick and the snare, the fills. So the one thing you have to do is make sure you have a good drum track. And how do you know that? Go by your heart and by your ears. If it feels good by itself, then that's great. You've got a backbone. You've got to be able to edit to something if it's not the grid or the metronome. And the backbone of every song that has drums is drums. So I've got a good drum track here. So let me listen to the drums and the bass. Okay, again, a lot of feel, a lot of like Rolling Stones to it. Where I am going to use a visual and listen to my ear, it looks like, you know, I've got pretty good eighth note kind of thing bouncing here between the kick and the floor toms here, and then it gets a little different here. And I don't know if I like that difference. And there's a note here that's a little, obviously in between these kicks is a little funny. So let me just edit to the kick drum. There's the kick drum there. Let me take these eighth notes of the bass right here, and let me bring those. I'm just copying those out, and let me fly that over. I'm just dragging that over, and I'm going to go to the beginning of that kick drum. I'm not going to zero in scientifically because none of this is that. And let me see how this feels instead of some of that. And then let me duplicate this again. Let me get it to the front. What's going on here? Sorry. Of this kick drum. All right. Good enough. So I know these are all the same note. So let me, and I like that note there. It's a little more evenly played. You can see this one is softer. So let me just see now. Let me see how this feels. Again, right here, he sustained these two notes with a little bit less space in between. So let me drag this one over and kind of get that. I'm editing by kick drum here. I'm not editing by grid because there's not one. So now let me see how this feels. Okay, pretty good. How tight do I want that? I mean, I haven't done any crossfades or anything like that between these edits because I just want to show you this main technique of feel. All right, not bad. You know, if I really zero in, these are pretty good. That one's a little early, but listen, it doesn't feel bad to me. This one has a little bit of a different ring to it. So let me just grab one. And I want to grab one that's on the and because that's on the and. One and. So, because the downbeat would sound funny there. So let me bring this and over here. And let me, since there's not a kick drum there, I'll have to edit by the floor tom. Let me bring that over just to make the consistency of the finger noise. Now let's listen. And obviously it does it there. So let's bring that over. Let's edit to the floor tom. That one was a little early. Let me get rid of that. You know, when I do this all correctly, it would be crossfaded like that, and I'd crossfade that. But I don't want to waste your time with crossfades. Now let's listen. Much better, and it's not gridded. Now there's a little bit of funny, I think the difference there, let me bring that back a little. And get this out of the way. Quick edits here. Now, one thing we have here is there's a differentiation between the kick and the floor tom there. So, let me grab these. Sound a little bit closer, even though there's a differentiation there. Let me find one that's a little closer. That one sounds good. So let me just grab There's a tom room, a kick drum, and a tom sample. So let me copy those. Bring those over to the one that sounds a little flammy. Let me put this one here. And see how that sounds. Little bit rushed. Let me solo the drums there. Make sure we get this good. There's a little pop there because of crossfades. If you really, so what I would really do is I would bring these back, bring this back, crossfade, crossfade, crossfade. The pop should be gone now. Let me check. Okay, there we go. No, we're not gridding. We're just going by ear. Now, let me take an instrument that doesn't have all the same notes. Let's listen to the guitar against this. All right, we get a little ahead. Okay, I'm editing to my kick drum, which is here. We can obviously see. Now, another thing I like to do is move by a whole phrase. So I didn't just get that note. Let me edit a whole phrase here. Line that up kind of to the kick drum. Bring that back and crossfade it. So now I know the beginning of the phrase starts with the kick drum. Let's see how that feels. I think I can even use more. Maybe even more. That one's a little ahead there. Matter of fact, you know, I really like a little more staccato. I could go back and fix what I've done, or I can edit my kick drum here. Where's my kick drum? There. Let me clip the beginning of that phrase. This phrase is a little more staccato if I like that more. Where's my kick drum? Right there. Let me paste that right here. And then maybe see how that is. It's important to maybe let's try to keep that one right there. Now we're quite a bit back there. So maybe the drums changed. So where's my kick drum? Oh, let me see. That sounds bad. So that sounded bad. So let me bring that back. Now maybe this is a little ahead, and it is. So let me grab this. Let me bring that to the kick drum right there. Bring him back a little, do a crossfade, and every time I'm just going by ear. Great. Now this one seems a little lazy to me. It is. Let me bring that back. I'm just going by feel. I want this to sound like the Rolling Stones. If I really want to get picky, this one sounds a little bit ahead, and it is. Okay, so now our repaired phrase between bass drums and guitar sounds like this. And that's what I want to achieve. I don't want to make this perfect. I don't want to make it gridded. I want it to sound 70s, Rolling Stones. I want it to move. I want it to have swagger. And because that's appropriate for this kind of song. So by turning off the grid lines and making sure that I have a drum track that's even throughout, I can edit things to that drum track and make it sound like a band. Not stiff, not rigid, but it has heart and soul. It's not perfect, but I've tightened up, done a little tiny bits of cosmetic surgery to it to make it feel the way that it should. Well, there you go. A great way to edit with feel and heart. The lesson behind the lesson here is know what type of editing makes the song in front of you the best it can be. Sometimes it's editing to the grid, and sometimes it's not. Thanks so much for watching. Give me some comment, love, and a thumbs up below. And hit me at drbobmusicsurgery@gmail.com if you want to say hello or you want me to work on your music. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you the next time the doctor's in.